Hi, welcome to episode 16. Today, we're gonna start talking about other major scales. We kind of talked about a C major scale, and I talked about the musical keyboard. I'm gonna draw one here, some of one, and here's some black keys that come in groups of 2 and 3, maybe you remember. And always when you have a group of 2 black keys, the key to the left of it is C. Remember the middlest one on the piano is middle C, which is called C4. And then all these keys can be called these letters, usually are. Not always though, as I said, sometimes the thing that looks like a C is a B sharp, and you just have to trust me on that. Or not. It's probably good to have a healthy mistrust of someone teaching you stuff on the internet. I hope you do. But I'm right. Sometimes it's a B sharp. Tough. That's the keyboard. It's one of the things you kind of have to know to be good at making scales. Basically, the reason you have to know it is because you have to know how far away all these notes are from each other. So remember, like from C to D is a whole step because there's an in-between key. And from D to E is a whole step because there's an in-between key. But from E to F is a half step. And if we look at the sequence of whole and half steps, it's always going to be whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. For any major scale, 1 octave's worth, always that sequence of whole and half steps. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. You have to know the keyboard, or at least know that B and C and E and F are the 2 notes that are only a half step apart, but it's probably better if you know the keyboard. If you're, say, a guitar player and you already have note names memorized on the fretboard, that works too, or whatever your instrument is, as long as you're like aware of how many notes are in between every note. Out of the total of kind of 12 notes that we sort of have. We haven't started talking about that. I don't even like to talk about that until much later. The thing people think of as the chromatic scale, a scale that has every single one of these keys, including the white and black keys, is kind of this made-up concept that came way later in the development of music, and that is not really a scale in the same way that a major or minor scale or any kind of mode is. We can fight about that in like 30 or 40 episodes when we get there. So you got to know the keyboard, and you have to know your alphabet. That's easy enough. That's it. You need to know the keyboard to know the whole and half steps. And you have to know the alphabet because every single scale has to have 1 of each pitch class. Remember, a pitch class is like all the C's. C4, C5, C3, C2. All the C's as a group form the pitch class C. Okay. That's all you really need to know, and you can form any major or minor scale. So like, let's say we wanted to form our C scale. It's easy. I don't know why I'm writing this one down. We know our C scale just goes from C to C, from C to shining C. And we know that's already set up right. Last time we looked at 2 of the closest scales to C. We looked at a G scale, and a G scale is so much like a C scale. But if we want to keep our correct setup of whole and half steps, we had to use an F sharp. That's the only pitch class that's different between a G major scale and a C major scale. Is that in a C major scale, you have a G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. In a G major scale, you have G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And maybe you remember there was another scale that was really close to C that only had one different pitch class than C, and that's an F scale. It has a B flat in it. We talked a little bit last time about how B flat and F sharp were actually our very first two accidentals we had in music. And B flat actually ended up leading to the sign we now call a flat sign. And you can put that on any note and make it go down a half step. And the F sharp kind of led to the sign we now call our sharp sign. Add a sharp to any single note, it makes it go up a half step. So when we're going to make a scale, what we have to do is adjust every letter of the alphabet to make sure we have the right set of intervals between the notes, that is, whole and half steps, to keep this whole, half thing going, no matter what note we start on. You might notice something. If we start on our C scale, well, let's start on our F scale. If we start on our F scale, and we go up to its fifth note, F, G, A, B flat, C, we get a C, we get C. If we start on our C scale and go up to its fifth note, C, D, E, F, G, we get G. Here we had one flat, then 0 flats, then one sharp. We can go further towards the sharp side or towards the flat side by just continuing that same kind of motion. So if I go into my G scale and go G, A, B, C, D, a D scale is the next scale that we would work on towards the sharp side. And if we went in our F scale and went down 5, because look, if we go in our C scale and go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that gets us F. If we go in our F scale and go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it gets us B flat. And that's the next scale on the flat side. In olden times, you didn't get too much further afield than this. And when you did, it wasn't much further, right? And people called this like the Durus or Durham or something like that side. Don't quote me on this. It's Latin. Basically means hard. The hard side. And then this was called the moll side, like mollify someone, soften. The soft side. And people didn't think of keys the exact same way we do now, but they definitely had this idea of like moving towards the hard side or the soft side. Notice like the hard side could also be talking about B naturals. All these scales are going to have B naturals as we go in this direction. The next one we'd get to is an A. And all these scales are going to have a B flat in them. So the soft B, B flat, and the hard B. Remember that the other kind of B was shaped like this, and then that was B natural. I kind of talked about that. It isn't anymore. It kind of turned into a weird looking H, and then just turned into a normal looking H. And like I said, in Germany, and I think in a few other German speaking countries, they still call B natural H. Weird, right? This thing I've started drawing here has a name. We're not going to talk about it a lot today. I'll just get halfway around it. This is called the circle of fifths. You've probably heard of it before. Maybe you can guess why it's called the circle of fifths. That's right, it's a circle. I mean, it would be if I got all the way around. I lied. Why don't we just go ahead and get all the way around? I'm not going to explain it today, though. Next, we would have E and then B. And then on the opposite side of the circle from C would be the key or scale of F sharp. And then if we go one further, it's C sharp. And then if we kept going this way, after E flat, we're going to have an A flat. And then we could call this D flat. It looks just like a C sharp scale on a piano. Hit the same notes on the piano. This could be called G flat. And believe it or not, sometimes this is called C flat. There's this overlap. The flat side comes around past the bottom of the circle, and the sharp side also comes around past the bottom of the circle. There's a reason why we have just exactly these 15 keys. That's 15, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spots on the clock. You can think of it like a clock. And then 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 7 o'clock all have 2 different names. Wow. Okay. Let's talk about how you make our scales. Let's get a little practice. Let's do the first one we haven't done yet, a D scale. So step 1, I'm going to write every letter of the alphabet. Step 2, I'm going to make sure that my intervals go whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And to do so, I'm going to have to do some adjustments. D to E is a whole step. E to F is only a half step. We've got to raise this F up to an F sharp. Oh, that fixed it. D, E, F sharp to G. G, A, B, C, D. Uh-oh. That C is not a half step away from D, and it is not a whole step away from B. Sharp to the rescue. C sharp. So a D scale is a little further away from a C scale than a G scale is, right? A G scale only has one different note than a C scale. It only has the F sharp as opposed to an F natural. A D scale has the same F sharp in it, but also has a C sharp. It has 2 sharps. Let's go in the flat direction. Let's write a B flat scale. So I need 1 of every letter of the alphabet. I already know B is flat because we're calling it a B flat scale. B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And the B is flat. We just know that. B flat to C is a whole step. That's good. C to D is a whole step. D to E is supposed to be a half step, but it's not. We can't change the D. The D is already the right distance from C. We got to lower this E. E flat. Notice I'm writing these sharps and flats. These are things we call accidentals. Accidentals are the sharp, the flat, and later we'll learn about the natural. I've maybe mentioned it. A natural kind of undoes a sharp or flat, or just makes it clear you're talking about the not sharp or flat version of a pitch class. Anyhow, so notice again, C was closer to F because F only had 1 flat. It had a B flat as opposed to a B natural. And as we continue in this direction, we still have the B flat in the B flat scale, obviously, but now we also have an E flat. So we go from high noon, no sharps, no flats. 1 o'clock has 1 sharp, 2 o'clock has 2 sharps, and 11 o'clock has 1 flat, and 10 o'clock has 2 flats. Guess how many sharps there are in an A scale? Yeah, that's right, there's 3 sharps. And guess how many flats are in an E flat scale? That's right, there's 3 of them. And furthermore, if we write this A scale out, right, I'm starting with the alphabet, just 1 of each letter. And then I just have to make my intervals right. And if I do that, I would find that I have a C sharp and an F sharp and a G sharp. Now, look how this is happening. In my C scale, nothing was sharp or flat. In my G scale, I had 1 sharp. It was an F sharp. In my D scale, I had 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. In my A scale, I have 3 sharps, F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. So every step around this scale, we're keeping the old sharp and adding a new sharp. And those sharps come in a certain order that people can recognize. And we'll talk about some mnemonics for that kind of stuff next time. For now, let's go ahead and write out this E flat scale too. So that way we've written out half of the circle of fifths, sort of. So 1 letter of every letter of the alphabet, the musical alphabet, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. We know the E's are flat. If we adjust this to make our whole and half steps right, we're going to find we have an A flat and a B flat. And so 3 flats. So it's a lot further away from C. And this way of organizing keys is a great way to measure the distance between keys. We call these keys closely related keys. And then these keys are further related. And when you have keys that are so different as C and F sharp, this is very unrelated. Notice a little quirk, and then I'm done. C is very far away from B and C sharp. As close as you can be in pitch, far away as you can be in key. That's a weird thing about music, takes a while to get. We'll talk about it more. Goodbye.